Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential, and today I'm giving you an in-depth tutorial of how to sew a 2-thread flatlock stitch on your overlocker, like the ones on my jumper, but also to show you how many creative possibilities there are with your overlocker so that you can get the most out of it. Let's get started. So recently I was asked to take part in a festive stitch campaign and I made this jumper, and I used a 2-thread flatlock stitch as a decorative stitch on the jumper. If you want to see a review of the jumper, it is on our channel. But this project really opened my eyes to a whole world of creativity that is accessible on my overlocker, and I had such a lot of fun doing it, and I wanted to bring those opportunities to you because I think these things go overlooked so often. You know, an overlocker isn't just for finishing seams and constructing garments. There are so many decorative things you can do with them, and so many lovely decorative threads you can use as well, and you can just have a whole heap of fun. So I'm going to give you a bit of an overview at the start of some of the different stitches, the different threads, just give you a feel for all those different creative possibilities, and then we'll get into the in-depth tutorial where I'll show you a 2-thread flatlock stitch, both for decorative stitches placed in the middle of a garment, but also for hemming, which is great if you haven't got a cover stitch machine. And I'll show you those techniques with a standard foot and a blind hem stitch foot as well. I'm going to demonstrate everything on my Baby Lock Aspire, but you know, you can do a lot of these techniques on other brands of overlocker as well. So yeah, just really an opportunity to open your eyes and get you all excited and, you know, interested in testing out and experimenting some of these techniques. Everything I use in the video, all the beautiful decorative threads, the machines, the accessories, they're all available on our website. I'm going to pop links in the description for everything below, but also if you ever need any advice, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. We're always really happy to help. But yeah, we'll start by taking a look at some of those beautiful stitches and just start to get those creative ideas flowing. So in the tutorial, I'm going to show you step by step how to create this stitch, which is the 2-thread flatlock stitch. So you've got the overlocker thread side here, and then you've got the ladder stitch side here. So I will show you step by step how to do that, but I also just wanted to take the opportunity to show you lots of other things here as well, because doing this project opened up a whole new world of creativity for me, playing around with different threads, different stitches. It just really made me realise there is so many other creative things I can be doing other than constructing garments, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And I do think Baby Lock are particularly good at this. So all of this was done on my Baby Lock Aspire. We stock the full range on our website, and you'll find links in the description below. However, lots of these stitches are also available on other overlockers as well. So the 2-thread flatlock you'll find on lots of other overlockers. And I just wanted to inspire everybody really, because I enjoyed it so much doing all these different things. And you know, that is what I'm here for really, to give you ideas, to inspire you, to excite you about your sewing. So I just wanted to share it with you. So the threads I used for this were Madeira embroidery threads, metallic ones. They're on our site. Again, I'm going to pop links to all the threads and everything below for you as well. But yeah, it was really lovely creating that. And while I was playing around, doing samples and things, I also had a play with some other types of threads. So this is a variegated thread. This is another Madeira one. I think it's called Decora. And I just love that sort of rainbow effect that it creates because it's variegated. And then I used metallic thread in the needles. And then I had a little play around and experiment as well with just threading some of that variegated thread through those ladder stitches. Just ignore my star there, that was a bit of a dud. I can't remember what happened there, but I did something wrong. But yeah, just threading that variegated thread in between the ladder stitch is a nice way to add an interesting detail as well. So that's some other options for you to try. If you haven't got a cover stitch, you can use the 2-thread flatlock to create a hem on knit and jersey garments on your overlocker. I'm going to demonstrate that in the video and how you can use the blind hem foot to help you with that. But essentially this is what your garment would look like from the right side. So this is the bottom edge of your garment, and this is your hemline effectively, which is a ladder stitch. It's great because it's stretchy, so your stitches aren't going to pop when you're wearing your garments. And then on the wrong side, the raw edges are covered up with this lovely overlocking stitch. So it's just a really nice, neat way to hem things if you haven't got a cover stitch. However, I would say I do like to have a cover stitch. These are some cover stitches just so you can see for reference the differences. So this is the bottom of the cover stitch thread. This is a triple needle one, and this is a double needle one. And then on the right side of the fabric, you just get these parallel lines of stitching. So I just think there are garments sometimes where you don't want anything overly decorative or obvious. You know, you want something a lot more subtle on perhaps the hem of a dress or a blouse. And in those instances, I do like to have the cover stitch. And the other thing about the cover stitch is just how lovely and flat it is. You don't get that tunnelling that you can experience with the twin needle. You know, you'll never get results as professional as this on a sewing machine, so it is always nice to have that option. Some of the Baby Lock machines are combined, and we do stock a wide range of cover stitch machines as well, so if you need any help with any of that, just let me know. But that's just giving you an idea of the differences between the different hemming options. And then there's a couple of other really cool stitches that Baby Lock have brought out in, I'm going to say in recent years. The wave stitch, which is this one along the edge of the fabric, might actually have been quite a long time ago. I feel like it was relatively recent, but it might have been a few years now. But this is unique to Baby Lock. As you can see, it just waves along the edge of the fabric. So whereas you can place your cover stitches and your flatlock stitches in the centre of garments, the wave stitch is used on the edge of the fabric. So really it's more for like craft and home deck projects. But again, another really lovely way to get creative. And what they've done here is used woolly nylon in the loopers, which is a thicker thread. Again, we stock that on our site. We've got Madeira woolly nylon Aeroflock thread. And what that does is it really fills those stitches in so there's no gaps, so you can't see the fabric. And you can use that with your cover stitch. You can use it with different fancy stitches in the loopers. It's got more stretch in it as well, so it's great for active wear and things like that. But yeah, that's another one of the sort of unique Baby Lock stitches. And then finally, it's a very specialist one, but the most recent addition to the Baby Lock family was the Primo, which is actually a cover stitch machine. But it does all the regular cover stitches, but then it also does these beautiful swing stitches and serpentine stitches. So it has two wipers on the top that swing backwards and forwards as the cover stitch is being formed, and then the cover stitch stitches those threads down to create this swing stitch effect where it's like a circle, or this serpentine stitch where it just swings backwards and forwards across the cover stitch. And that's the wrong side, it's just your standard cover stitch on the wrong side. But again, you can get hugely creative with this. You can use it to do textile design. You know, it's great for things like cushions or curtains, but also I've seen it used to decorate pieces of fabric that have then been used for skirts or jackets. You know, you're taking your sewing to a whole other level by using these different decorative stitches, using the different decorative threads, and I just think there is so much fun to be had with all of this. And one thing I should have mentioned with a cover stitch as well is that you can use a cover stitch, you can use that wrong side of the stitch on the right side of the garment, like I have on this sweatshirt here. I've done it in a contrasting thread just to make a bit of a statement. So I just wanted to show you that as another idea. But now let's take a look at those gorgeous threads. So these are the Madeira Glamour threads that I used for my jumper, gorgeous gold coloured ones there. And they're just embroidery threads, but I used them in the needle and the loopers for that project. But look at these ones in these really sort of sugary colours. You know, there's so many different colours and different options. I've just picked out a few to show you, and these are all available on our website. But you can just have so much fun with all of this. And then these are the Cotona, they're not Decora, they're Cotona, sorry. These are those variegated ones, so that's what they look like on the reel. There's lots more colours of these again, and then there's complementing solids as well. But you can see how sort of thick they are. But yeah, they're just like really, really fun as well. I love how those stitch out, and they're the ones I used on that serpentine and swing stitch as well on the Primo. And then I thought I'd show you just some more metallics. These are some Gutterman metallics that you could use, a lovely pearlescent one there, silver and pink, just trying to give people lots of ideas really of different things you can do. And then there's some rayon threads here by Madeira, again a variegated option, and you know, something that's just got a little bit of flecking through it. And then finally those Madeira woolly nylons I was talking about, so you can see that thread it's like a yarn almost rather than a thread, and that's the one that's extra stretchy and will really fill in your decorative stitches. So all of those are available on our website. Just check out the links in the description. And before we get started with the tutorial, there's just one last thing I want to show you, which is the Baby Lock Compendium. Just for anybody who's considering getting a baby lock or who already has one and is feeling really inspired to start stretching those sewing skills. You get a really detailed manual when you purchase one of the Baby Lock machines, but this accompanies that and goes a lot further. So there's a section in the front where you've got all your threading information, all your stitch information, but then there are lots of other incredibly useful sections as well. So there's a section on the accessories, and that's one of the brilliant things about the Baby Locks, is how many additional accessories you can purchase for your machine and all the different techniques you can try with them. We stock the full range on our website, but the compendium will bring it to life for you. We'll show you examples of where you might like to use it. So that was the pin tuck and piping foot. This is the double fold bias binder, showing you real life examples of where you might want to use these different things in your sewing. And then we've also got there's a lot of different binder options, but then we've also got like your lap seam folder as well. You've got your belt loop folder, and just some lovely ideas like this one here of how you could create different belt loop straps and create something really unusual on some active wear. It just brings it to life and just gives you lots of ideas and inspiration to take your sewing to the next level and get so much more out of your machine. And then there's a section at the end with lots of advice about fabrics, needles, different threads. Again, lots of the threads that I've just shown you are featured in here, and it just really brings it to life, all the different opportunities you've got to really stretch your sewing skills. And then at the back you've got a tips and tricks section which will show you lots of solutions, anything that you might be having problems with, and you've got a section at the back for writing notes as well and just documenting your findings. So if you want to get really nerdy and really geeky and just experiment, I highly recommend it. You know, I enjoyed it so much with that project with the jumper, and these are available on our site. I'll put the links in the description below. But now let's get started with the 2-thread flatlock tutorial, which you can do on a wide range of overlockers. I'm going to start by showing you how to set your overlocker up for a 2-thread flatlock stitch. So different brands may vary slightly, and you might just need to consult the manual if you've got a different brand of overlocker. But this is my Baby Lock Aspire, which is a combined overlocker and cover stitch machine. And the Baby Lock machines work in the same way. The setup will be the same. So I'm starting with a spool of thread on my left overlocker needle stand here. But instead of taking the thread through the usual thread guide on the top here for the left needle, I'm going to take it through the guide for what would normally be the upper looper. So I've taken it up through the telescopic thread guide, and then I'm going to click it into that upper looper guide there, bring it down the front of the machine, around and through the relevant guides on the front of the machine, up and over, and then I'll thread the overlocker left needle in the usual way. So we'll just finish threading that left needle in the usual way. Just take it behind the thread guides in front of the needle, and then pass it through the eye of the needle, like so. And that part is set up and ready to go now. And then there's just a couple of really important steps to take before we thread the lower looper. So the first one is we need to drop the blade. So I'm going to turn the dial at the front of the machine on my Aspire to drop that blade below the needle plate. And then the second thing we need to do, which is really important, and it's a step that people often miss, and is the reason why this particular stitch doesn't work, we need to engage our subsidiary looper. So to do that on the Aspire, and it'll be similar on various brands of machine, we just want to swing it over the top like that, and it just hooks into the back of the upper looper like so. Now I'm going to thread the lower looper, and like I said, different brands may vary slightly, but the principles will be the same. But on the Baby Lock machines, we're going to put the thread on the lower looper thread stand, go up through the telescopic thread guide, click it into the tension here for the lower looper as normal, and we're just going to thread that lower looper in the usual way. So I'm going to take the thread behind the guide there, and then the wonderful thing about the Aspire and lots of the other Baby Lock models is that they are jet air threading, so you don't have to manually thread your loopers. There's either a lever, or in the more recent machines you get this electronic push button which will thread the loopers for you. And if you want to learn more about those different systems or learn more about the Baby Lock machines, there are in-depth video reviews of all of the models on our site and other brands as well. So do jump on and have a look at those, and don't hesitate to get in contact if you've got any questions. But let's just press the button now. And you can see that lower looper is threaded, it's so effortless. One thing I want to mention here, I'm using Madeira Glamour threads, which are an embroidery thread for the demo today, just because I think it's nice to use decorative threads, you know, when you're doing some of these more fancy stitches. I'll go through some other options later in the video because there's lots of lovely options. We stock them all on our site as well. We stock these Madeira ones on our site and lots of the others that I'm going to show you. But what you might find sometimes, if you're working with a particularly thick thread, you might struggle to get it through. And in that case, you get one of these wires with your machine, and there's a little loop at the end that you can just pass that thicker thread through, and then you push the other end into the looper port and just pull it all the way through, and that will get that thicker thread through the loopers for you. So that's just a useful tip, and you can purchase these on our site. They're only a few pounds, but that's just worth mentioning as well. So I'm going to start by showing you how to place your stitches within your project like I did on my sweatshirt. So not hemming, using it for hemming, but actually using it as a decorative stitch in the middle of a project, for example. And to do that, we simply fold our fabric in half. If I fold it wrong sides together, on the right side of the fabric we will have the overlocker style stitch. If I fold the fabric wrong sides together, we will have the overlocking style stitch on the inside, on the wrong side, and we'll have the ladder stitch on the right side. So you can alternate it to create different effects, which I did on the sweatshirt that I made. And the key thing with this is it's the positioning of the stitches. So you do need to be prepared to sort of have a bit of a go on some scraps of fabric and just get it exactly right, you know, where you want it to be. But I know with this sweatshirt fabric, for example, I'm just going to line the fabric up with the inside of one of the markings on the foot there. It's quite difficult for me to see from the angle I'm at because of the camera. But one of the other things that I'm going to show you later in the video is the blind hem foot, and you can also use that when you're sewing fabric on the fold like this as well. So if you do find it tricky with the standard foot, which is the one actually I used for my jumper for most of it, I think, you can also use the blind hem foot, and it just gives you a really clear guide to work with. But I'm just going to go ahead and sew this now. So it will look a bit strange when you take it off the machine. The loops are sort of overhanging the edge of the fabric slightly, but that's good. That's actually really good in this instance, because what we want to do now is open that fabric out, and you can see that when the fabric, when the loops overhang the edge of the fabric, when you pull it out straight, it's nice and flat. We haven't got tunnelling. And that's your decorative stitch on your right side of your fabric, your overlocking stitch. And then on the wrong side, on the inside, we've got the ladder stitch. So, you know, if we wanted that on the right side, we can alternate it like I mentioned. And you can just play around with it. You can just have so much fun with it, especially with these gorgeous decorative threads as well. I had a real whale of a time making my sweatshirt. I absolutely loved it. But I'm going to show you now how you can use that stitch for hemming garments on your overlocker as well. So I'm going to show you how you can use the 2-thread flatlock stitch now to create a hem on knit or jersey garments. So this is a great alternative if you don't have a cover stitch machine. It gives you a lovely decorative finish, but the stitches will have stretch in them as well, so they're not going to pop when you wear the garment, when you take it off and put it on. And it's also used in industry sometimes. I personally do like having a cover stitch as well, because I like to have that choice, because I think there are some garments where you want a more subtle finish than this. But particularly for like sweatshirts and t-shirts and things, this is great. And it's just a good alternative if you don't have a cover stitch. So we're going to create the blind hem, or the hem rather, in the same way as we do a blind hem on a sewing machine. So you want to fold your hem up, and then you'll fold the fabric back on itself like so. And you just want a little bit of fabric exposed, a little bit of the raw edge exposed on the right hand side as you put it under the foot. If you've got too much fabric there, you will end up with the stitches being bunched up, because the stitches aren't sort of wide enough to wrap around that raw edge. And again, it's all about positioning. I just want to add a caveat that it's quite difficult for me to get the positioning right from the angle I'm sitting at, so that, you know, the camera's capturing everything. But you just want to have a little play around with scraps of fabric. If you need extra guidance, you can use a blind hem foot, which I'm going to show you in a minute, that we stock on our website. But also it will be a lot easier for you when you're sat properly in front of the machine than it is for me at the angle I'm at. But I'm going to go ahead now. I've lined up a marker with the fold of the fabric that seems to work for me with this particular fabric and the different circumstances I'm using at the moment. But let's go ahead and sew that 2-thread flatlock now. And if we pull that apart again, you can see there we've got those ladder stitches on the right side of the garments. That would be at the bottom, just above your hem. And then on the wrong side of the fabric, we've got those lovely overlocker stitches. And you can see it's really, really stretchy. It's great for those knit and jersey garments. And I just want to show you another sample that I did, because I don't think I've caught it quite right there, but I've got one here that I made earlier when I could actually sit in front of the machine properly. And you can see that lovely ladder stitch there. And then those lovely neat overlocking stitches on the back there. It's just a great way to hem those garments, but also a lovely way to have a bit of a play with textile design and creating your own sort of textile designs. It's just such a lot of fun. Now, another thing you can do to make this technique even easier is use a blind hem foot like the one I've got on the machine currently. It's got a piece of metal that juts out to the right of it, and where that juts out, you just want to position the fold of your fabric there in between the edge of the foot and where the bit on the right comes out, the guide. And it just means it's really, really clear where you need to position your fabric. You can also adjust the screw and move the guide if you need to for different fabrics. But it just makes it that bit easier than trying to use a standard presser foot where you have got markings, but you've got to sort of do it by eye, whereas, you know, there is a very, very clear marking on the blind hem foot for you to use. And I think that's one of the fantastic things about baby lock machines is there are a really wide range of feet and accessories that you can buy separately for the machines. They're all available on our website, but they enable you to really get the most out of your overlocker, and they also enable you to grow your sewing skills as well. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the 2-thread flatlock with the blind hem foot now. So I'm lining the fold of the fabric up with the edge of the foot where it joins the guide on the right hand side there. And I'll just feed it through following that lovely visual guide. And you can stop and readjust your fabric if you need to. Obviously, the more even you get it, the more even your stitches will be. It's difficult for me on a video because normally I would sit sort of right in front of the machine. I'm sitting to the side because of the camera. But yeah, just try and keep everything nice and even. And then if we open that up, we've got that lovely ladder stitch on the right side of the fabric there. And then on the wrong side of the fabric, we've got those lovely neat overlocking stitches, which are just sitting over the raw hem, the raw edge of the fabric, and making everything lovely and neat inside. So I hope you've enjoyed the video today and it's given you a real taste for all the possibilities for being creative and decorative with your overlocker by branching out and trying different threads and different stitches. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I feel like I've discovered a whole new world of sewing and it's just wonderful. As I said at the start of the video, everything's linked in the description below. If you need any advice, don't hesitate to get in touch. If you like what you see, please like and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.